Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Irn-Cru, an NFL podcast made in Scotland discussing America's game. Week 9 is just around the corner, so it must be time for the preview crew. I'm your host, Dan, and joining me tonight are some of the finest crew members. First up is our own Joe Exotic. Nah, it's not the hairdo, it's his love of all things Bengal related. Cincinnati Stu, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm just sitting here in my new non-headliner falling down car. My little Suzuki has shown up, so I'm kind of enjoying life. That's been the big development this week, and also the Halloween candy.
Good combination, isn't it? Like, so you just basically living in your car at the moment because it's so new and you don't want to get out of it?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm doing all my work in here. The kids come out to see me in the back of the car as well. They love it because it's tiny. Jeannie loves it because it's a right-hand drive, so she feels like she's driving if she sits on the left.
Excellent, good to hear. I'm glad it's finally here after all the stories we've heard and all the waiting, so I'm glad it's finally here. Now, this man has suffered most from these introductions over the last week because he seems to be on with me nearly every Thursday night. But it's actually got to the point where his team are that bad, I can't find anything else to slag him about. Scud, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Well, seen I wasn't the only one when we beat the Bills. That's no fair.
I couldn't even really say anything last week either. Did we on with Keith with the Patriots podcast all night? Did you do that?
No, I didn't do it. Ended up there were a couple of guys who couldn't do it. Oh, Keith ended up with the sickness bug.
Oh, so he did. That's right. Oh,
so he pulled a sickie. So I think it's to be put later on, but it was Sod's Law. He put that on, then we beat the Bills. So I was like, if you put that podcast on every Monday.
Oh, Keith, hope you're feeling better. I know you will be listening and keeping an eye on the clock tonight, especially after last week. Anyway, this week's kickoff question, guys. So following the trade deadline passing, in all of sports, what's your favourite trade or transfer of all time? Stu, I'm going to come to you first.
See, this is it's more my favourite notorious trade of all time, and not trade in a good way. And that's it's obviously I live in Edmonton now, so the biggest trade that ever happened in hockey history was when Wayne Gretzky, the great one, was traded or sold to the LA Kings, because like back in those days, you could include money as part of trade. So the Edmonton Oilers got I think a couple of players coming back. They sent Wayne Gretzky and Marty McSorley, who was another really good player, sent them to the LA Kings for 3 first-round draft picks. I forget who came back. There's a couple of players, but also $15 million. So that was in 1988. And that basically shocked the hockey world, because everybody thought there's no way you're going to trade the best player in hockey, because at that time, Edmonton had just won 4 Stanley Cups out of the last 5 years. And Wayne Gretzky, he loved living in this city. He's now actually back here most of the time because he's involved with the organisation kind of thing again in the management level. But what that did do was he moved to the LA Kings, who were not so good, I guess you would say, and really transformed that organisation. So on the plus side, what it did was it really boosted hockey in the States and turned the NHL into the juggernaut that you have now. It's obviously not in the same level as the NFL or even the NBA, but it's it's the kind of, I guess, the fourth kind of big sport or whatever, out of the big four kind of thing. But it's that trade was the birth of it in the States. But yeah, nobody thought that would happen. I mean, that would be I guess, Tom Brady being traded away from the Patriots, but when he was in his prime kind of thing, like a 29-year-old Tom Brady being traded away or something like that, rather than him leaving at the end of his contract. So just to kind of put it in.
Prime about 39, mate. 39.
You know what I mean? No, it's the same thing. Four Stanley Cups in 5 years now. Suddenly, they traded him, kind of thing, and then that was the beginning of they did win one more cup actually, but that was the beginning of the decline kind of thing for Edmonton, and they've not won another cup since 1990. So we're still waiting.
Scott, I'll come to you next. I know you're having time to think about this, so you come up with an answer.
I come up with one, and what I'll go with one is, it was the one that basically says you don't mess about with Bill Belichick. I think it was 16, 17. It was Jamie Collins was trying to get a big contract out of the Patriots, and Bill Belichick wasn't having it, and then they punted him to the Browns, just when the Browns were going 0-16 and stuff like that. So I actually had a chuckle about that because that way you can't just mess about with him. To be fair, we turned that pick into that trade into Brandon Cooks as well, which was a good addition to our team for that season. So, no, Bill Belichick doesn't do much in the way of trades, but if you get in the wrong side of him, you're not in the building very long.
Sounds like it. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you remember this story. I was talking to the guys in work about this today, get their thoughts on the kickoff question. One of the stories that came up, I don't know if you all remember this guy, Ali Daye, played for Southampton. I don't know if you all remember this story.
I remember.
Graham Funes signed him on the basis that he was told he was George Weah's cousin. He put him on the pitch and subbed him back off 20 minutes later, and he was never seen again. That's not my favourite story, but that came up, and I thought, I remember that story, and he just, I don't know, I think it was one of the things, he signed them like really, really late on, and they were playing like the next day, so he didn't get a chance to see him in training or anything like that, so he just put him on the bench, brought him on, took him back off 20 minutes later, and the guy was never seen again. Hilarious. My favourite one, and people listening to this will think it's a very obvious answer for me, but it is 1996-97, Celtic signed a relatively not unknown, but he wasn't as big as he was at the time, left winger from Feyenoord for £450,000. He would go on to be arguably one of our greatest players ever, and that man is obviously Henrik Larsson. So I think that's, for 450 grand, what he done for us is absolutely priceless. He could have went for millions and we could have made a fortune on him, but he wanted to stay. We wanted him to stay. And then, as I say, the rest is history.
He scored a decent amount of goals for a left winger.
I know. Pat Mill. Remember his debut?
I know. Chick Charnley.
Chick Charnley, I gave the ball away to Chick
I remember it very well.
Charnley scored and Hibs beat us.
Aye.
I was going to say, one thing I remember, like, obviously I'm a Kelly fan, so I don't have quite the same kind of Celtic bias, but the one thing, or one of the things I really remember about Henrik Larsson was, remember after the leg break?
Yeah.
When he was out for a while, then he came back, and I think his first game, it was against I remember it was Dundee United. I think it was the first game.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And I remember watching that game with my grandpa, and he was a Celtic fan. And I remember sitting watching the game with him, and I turned to him at one point during the match. I was like, I think he looks even better than what he did before the leg break. Kind of thing. It's like, how's that possible? But he was just that kind of guy, I guess. Like, absolute legend. So even as a Kelly fan, I was delighted to see him getting his Champions League and that, and eventually with Barcelona kind of thing, beating Arsenal as well.
Yeah, he as a, who was it? Ronaldinho's famous quote is, I never seen any. He listed off all these superstars that played for Barcelona. That night, he says, I never seen any of them on the pitch tonight. All I seen was Henrik Larsson because he came off the bench.
It was Thierry Henry. It was
Thierry Henry.
Aye. He came off the bench and scored set up the 2 goals to win the Champions League for them. What a man he was.
Was he subbed on for Messi as well? It was Messi.
Messi, bro.
I mean, he was only 18, so we can't really. I'm not having a go at Messi. He's a young boy in the league at that point. But
Messi can't win a Champions League for Barcelona.
Henrik Larsson was the one that came on for him. So there you go.
There you go. Anyone who turned it for them. Anyway, guys, that's great. Thanks for that. So we're just on the same kind of similar topic. We're going to have a quick, brief chat about the. Why does that come up there? What's happened there? That shouldn't be there. I don't know what's happened there. Guys, scroll across the bottom. There we go. Forgot to tick the box to scroll across the bottom. Right. Transfer deadline twist. Trade deadline twist and turn. So we're going to quickly just talk over the moves that we've seen the last couple of days, get your thoughts on them. Not spend too much time on them, but just your thoughts. So we'll double up the first 2. So Montez Sweat and Chase Young leaving the Commanders to go to Sweat to the Bears, Young to the 49ers. Stu, what's your thoughts on those 2 moves?
I mean, it makes sense for both teams. Like for the Niners, I did think they would probably do more maybe to address the secondary rather than the pass rush. However, I will say, having just watched them play our Bengals, and I've watched the Niners a bit over the last few weeks because I seem to be usually stuck kind of featuring them in the previous show when I've been doing it or reviewing them. And what I have noticed though is their pass rush, even with Bosa, has been struggling to get home. So I think maybe by bringing in Chase Young, that's gonna really improve them in that corner, and maybe in a roundabout way, it's going to help out the secondary just in terms of giving the quarterback less time to get the ball out, and you're going to end up having the wide receivers won't get as deep into their routes and things like that as well. So maybe the Niners are looking at fixing it that way. Montez Sweat, obviously the Bears, they're a building team. We know their defence is not great. They definitely needed help everywhere, but why not start with pass rush? Same thing. If you've got a good pass rush, you're going to put their quarterbacks under pressure. You're going to get to running backs quicker. On the prices, though, I would say that in typical Bears fashion, they've probably slightly overpaid because, I mean, it was like a second they gave up for him, which, let's face it, that's probably going to be it's like the Claypool trade from last year, where you're essentially handing over a first round pick, really. When if you're picking 33rd, 34th, whichever kind of pick that one becomes. And whereas the Niners for Chase Young, yes, I know he's been injured and he's younger, so slightly less proven. They gave up a third round pick, but it's one of their compensatory picks. So if you look at where that's actually going to land, it's probably in that, depending on where they finish at the end of the season, it's way beyond pick 90 anyway, is what I'm trying to say. It's probably low hundreds. So, to me, I'm kind of going like, that seems like it's probably a bit of a bargain. And they've got another guy that they can put into that that very good defensive line. So even if they let Armstead go in a couple of years, then Chase Young's should be an obvious replacement, or somehow you keep all three, him and Bosa, and then you've just got this devastating front line kind of thing for the next few years. So, no, I like both trades. I think the Bears maybe overspent slightly, like I said, but I totally get it. Like, if you can go out and get Montez Sweat to, put in your team and start building for next year, then why not?
Yeah. I am quite surprised. Well, we don't know if there was any more interest. But to be fair, if you had the choice, Niners would probably top of Chase Young's teams to go to. But for that value, there must have been a few teams sniffing about him. But as you say, even if teams are sniffing about it, and the Niners are there, you're depends. Maybe not a couple of teams, but Niners are going to be one of your top 3 picks of teams to go to if you're looking to move. Right, move on. So we're going to go to the back end. We'll double this one up as well, Stu, yourself. So Kevin Byard, Titans to the Eagles. Russell Douglas, Green Bay to the Bills. What's your thoughts on the 2 moves at DB and safety?
Was that to me or Scud?
Scud, sorry.
Good. I think you said Stu.
Sorry, I've confused the life out of me.
Sorry.
What was that one? Sorry, buddy.
Kevin Byard, Titans to the Eagles, and Russell Douglas, Packers to Bills.
First of all, the Eagles needed help. They've been ravaged with injury, so I think that's a great getting him in there to help with that was going to be a great help, but beef them up a bit because I think they must be the unluckiest team with injuries. I'm surprised they've got as much wins as what they've got, to be honest with you, with how they've been struggling so much on defense. So I think that's going to be a good one, and it's only strengthened them because if their injuries come back, then I thought it was going to be the 49ers in the NFC, but to me, I think it's the Eagles all day long now. The way they've not really played well, and they're 7-1. So that's a scary thought. I know the Cowboys will be interested in the Cowboys and them, but I said it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think if they start to get healthy, it could be not so good for the rest of the NFC and your Cowboys, mate. Unfortunately. What was the last other one? Sorry, bud.
Russell Douglas went from the Packers to the Bills at cornerback.
He'll again. They need help as well. They've been getting shown up as just as much in the D at the moment.
It's got the same story. Like the Bills have had a few injuries, kind of thing back there. So it's
I think
basically they're carbon copy. And when the Patriots can beat you, there's something wrong with your defense. That's all. And that's not a slate, but we've not really been doing well on offense. But if we're managing to maintain and score points against you, and it was quite not easy, but we were going up and down the field with a wee bit of easing away, and it was quite concerning. It must be concerning for them, especially when you've got the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bengals now starting to click into gear again. That's not so good for them in the AFC.
Yeah. Just going back to what we said about Kevin Byard and Eagles, I think, I don't know if you heard it last week, but I mentioned that so far this season, the Eagles have went through 15 defensive backs this season.
Crazy amount. Like,
defensive backs.
For a team that's 7-1, that's an absolutely diabolical amount. They've basically got the DB room equivalent of the Giants' WR room. Remember the many-headed monster that we talked about? Where like they've got like 10 wide receivers, and they'll just try to make one good one out of them.
A right leg off of him, a right arm off of him. I like that. Anyway, let's quickly move on. Next two we'll just quickly cover quickly. Leonard Williams, New York to Seattle. Seems like a good move for Seattle. I watched his interview today, and which was good to hear. And you sometimes hear about these trades where players are basically told you're going, and that is it. He said that the GM is very open with him and said, look, not necessarily shopping you about, but this is what's happening. There's a couple of teams that are interested in you that are on the winning side of the season, and Seattle's one of them. Do you want to go? Type thing. Yeah. So he said they were very open, very honest with him. And he was like, yeah, okay, thanks for... Basically, they've said, we're going to do nothing this year. We want you to go somewhere that's going to do something. So to New York, the only time will tell how much they gain out of that trade. Seattle are getting a good uplift there as they're starting to turn the corner. Well, turn the corner. Seattle are doing well, but this is going to add to it for them.
Yeah, how much did they get? Or just quickly, Dan, how much did they get for him again? What was the... Because I felt like it was one of those when I looked at it first, I thought, oh, that seemed like under. You know, they could have had more, but now that you're saying that with the interview, it kind of sounds like maybe New York's kind of turned around and said, like, okay, here's the two offers, you get to choose, kind of thing, which is from an organisational side, it's maybe not good because you're not getting as much as you could for your asset, but at the same time, from an organisational side, it sort of makes you look good with free agents because it's kind of like, so I don't know if you've got it up there, like how much it was. I remember thinking,
it's a second this year and a fifth next year.
Okay, which is not bad, but like I think they maybe could have had slightly more than that, like saying maybe a fourth next year or something like that. So,
but the Giants are also picking up $9 million of his contract as well.
Ah, okay, they see that. That's maybe why when I read it first, I went like, okay, this seems like it could have done. But it seems nice that they've sort of kept him in the loop at least, if not gave him the choice of where to go. But,
consider they gave a third and a fifth for him. That's actually done better getting picked back from them than they did actually acquiring him.
I read that today. Actually, they got more back from than they gave for him.
Yeah.
Quickly, the last one. The quarterback merry-go-round who's going to end up in Minnesota. Turns out it's Joshua Dobbs. He's done okay for the Cardinals this year. He's not had much to throw at or to do, but he's looked decent enough. Obviously beat us. But with Kyler Murray coming back, and obviously now this explains why Clayton Tune was going to be the starter this week, why that was announced earlier in the week. It was expected to be announced anyway. So if you're a Vikings fan, are you happy with this one? What's your thoughts, guys?
I think you need to be the rookies. You'll get to see him this week. The rookie, is it Hawley's name? Sorry, I can't remember the boy's name. The rookie they're playing.
Yeah, Jaren Hall. I grabbed him on week because I don't have
any. But no, you'll get to see him. But you want somebody who's been about a bit longer, and Dobbs can do that. And you said he's looked serviceable at Arizona, and to be fair, the weapons they've got, you should be able to service them and keep them going. Yeah. And JJ to come back, it's a good offense to be part of. And if he's got limitations, hopefully they'll be able to help him out with their abilities and to bring the ball down.
Yeah, it probably also is a cheap option salary wise as well for them. If they went for somebody like a Tannehill or that, they would maybe have to pay a wee bit more. Kind of salary wise, and obviously they're now talking about Cousins will be back next year, so somebody like Tannehill going to come here and go, you play 1 year and then you're back as a backup. So I think it all kind of came together. It makes sense from all angles that this, not just necessarily Dobbs himself, but the level of quarterback he's at. I think it's what Minnesota need for this season, and then what happens in the future, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, just like one thing on Dobbs, like I would say like he has done a very good job of making guys like Trey McBride and like I know Hollywood's a really good receiver, but he's kept them fantasy relevant this year. Yeah. So if you can do that with McBride and Hollywood, you should be able to kind of maintain Addison and Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson and co. So it's a good fit. Like it's a guy that can just kind of hold the wheel and keep them going, kind of thing. And probably, for him, he'll be looking at it as, well, this is a chance. I've went for a team that's trying to compete for bottom in the league to now a team that actually has a chance of making the playoffs, kind of thing. Like the last few weeks.
Perfect. Guys, I'm just going to. This is not a trade transfer, but I mentioned this in the chat. We can't go without mentioning my favourite pickup of this week by a team, and it's the Rams picking up Dresser Wynn as a quarterback onto their practice squad. What a name he has, Dresser Wynn. Anyway, right, let's crack on with the game, guys. Right, so guys, people listening, people watching, we, in preparation for these preview crews and review crews, we spend a bit of time chatting about what games we're going to cover. We always do try and look outside the obvious choices. We done it last week. We picked up a couple of stories last week that weren't the obvious choices, which we really enjoyed discussing. But this week, we had no choice. It had to be these games. It was too obvious and the games are too big not to pick. So, for the first one, zum ersten Spiel geht es nach Deutschland für Dolphins und Chiefs. High school German finally came in useful.
They're good, Dan. They're good.
So it's AFC number 1 versus AFC number 2, 6-2 versus 6-2, Mahomes versus Tua, Tyreek versus the Chiefs. We're all going to cover this game off together, guys, but Stu, I'll let you kick the discussion off. What a game to start the weekend,
I know it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Like, I'll be here at 7 a.m. or whatever time it is for me. Beer stein in hand.
As long as you get the clocks right this time.
No, my clock's changed this Saturday, so I'll be back to 7 hours difference for you.
There you go, you're good.
8 hours for the game, so it'll be like a 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. kick-off. So I'll have the bratwurst out, like I'll be ready to go.
Get the lederhosen out, Crew branded lederhosen.
Yep, definitely. But no, like I'm really looking forward to this. It should be, like you say, fantastic. Like, interesting narrative just in the Chiefs kind of, I don't know if they maybe had their eyes on this one a little bit too much last week when they seemed to look very un-Chief-like and, taking nothing away from the Broncos, but the Chiefs laid an absolute egg kind of last week. So that's my main thing this week is like seeing, can they step up and be the championship Chiefs? Because so far they've been winning, but they've been sort of limping along in spots as well. Yeah,
definitely. It's been a weird season watching the Chiefs this year. Mm-hmm. Like, you came into this season expecting them to be the Chiefs, and they've really not been at all. Scott, what's going on with the Chiefs? Is it Taylor Swift's fault?
So nothing to do with her. I just think they get found. They're getting. I don't know. They've just, apart from Kelsey, who do you feel comfortable throwing the ball to in that team?
Yeah, it's true.
You've not got. You've got Scantling. And then all the rookies. And Moore. I can't remember them. Price.
You got Rashy Rice, Sky Moore, Scantling, Hardman.
Hardman's back. That might help.
But studs as big as our big chief himself said. Hardman's a punt returner, and even then he muffed that. So he's not got a lot going for him. But I just don't know what it is. They just don't seem to be as. Andy Reid always coached them up, the same as Belichick always used to do, coach up mediocre wide receivers. But maybe it's just there's just too much there. There's not, apart from Kelsey's getting older. I know he's no falling off a cliff anytime soon, but he is getting older. It can't always go through him because although he plays through whatever he can, he's getting older and takes longer time to recover stuff. So it will be interesting to see. I'm actually buzzing for this because I'm rolling out all Sunday just for watching American football. So it'll be a good one to kick off with, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, we spoke a couple of weeks ago on the pod. We covered the Chiefs a wee bit, and we said like the Chiefs to an extent, and we mentioned it with Andy Reid there, trying to do the same as the Patriots done, have that quarterback who's elite, but have not elite wide receivers, and it worked for the Patriots. Just doesn't seem to be working for the Chiefs anymore. So flipping over Dolphins have been good, Dolphins have been good, and I think we were all weren't sure how it was going to go. Obviously, Tua coming back to that injury last year. How was he going to respond? And we've seen all the stuff he done in the off-season in terms of the jiu-jitsu and learning how to fall properly and stuff like that. He has looked an absolute stud this year, hasn't he, Stu?
He's been absolutely fantastic to watch, kind of thing. Especially when I've been seeing my own boy kind of struggling along a bit with injuries. So it's it's kind of refreshing when you can sort of change the channel and see somebody like absolutely lighting it up, especially when they've came back from all the, we were talking about it last year, saying like, is he ever going to, is he going to end up having to end his career? Like, should he even be playing? And like you say, put in the work in the off season, strengthen the old neck, stuff like that, learn to fall, and him and Tyreek have just been absolutely lighting up. I mean, how many yards is Tyreek Hill sitting on for the season?
1,080 or something. 1,080. He's over 1,000 yards already. Anyway,
and through 8 games, so they're 6-2. Like the guy's like on to potentially break records this year if all goes well, and fingers crossed he doesn't get injured, kind of thing. I mean, Tua's been great to watch. On the other side, Mahomes, it's been really interesting because as much as we're talking about the elite quarterback and how much of the missing, we're talking about the wide receivers maybe letting them down, but in some of the Chiefs games I've seen, it's like it's not just the wide receivers. Sometimes Mahomes seems to be on the wrong wavelength as well, and they might be running their routes, but he's putting the ball into odd spots. So it's kind of like maybe the chemistry is just not quite there yet. But the thing is, though, it's still Patrick Mahomes, and I keep waiting on him, turning into Patrick Mahomes that we've seen the last kind of like 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, where he works magic. So we all know he can do it. But no, to me, I think so far I have to further ahead in that MVP race. Like he just on the strength of play through the first half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, the Dolphins have popped 271 points already this season, so they're averaging 34 points a game over 8 games. I mean, like you say about Tyreek, I think that's people talk about the records. It's a 17-game season, all that. Tyreek has put Tyreek has put up the most yards of the first 8 games of a season ever. It doesn't matter how many game season you've got, you can't take that record away from him because there's always at least 8 games. He's just. I mean, the thing is, it's not just Hill either. It's Waddle as well. Waddle's just. We had this conversation a week. Jalen Waddle would be a number 1 receiver on any other team in this league. It's just unfortunate he's having to sit behind Tyreek. So I was trying to pull Waddle stats up there, but they're coming up too slow. I think the start of the season, I think we all go back to fantasy chat for a bit. We looked at the Chiefs wide receivers and thought, Mahomes is throwing them the ball. These receivers are going to do well. We looked at Sky Moore, we looked at Rashee Rice. None of the two of them have really stepped up to the extent where what the Chiefs need them to do. And if it doesn't happen soon, I mean, I'm not going to say the Chiefs are going to keep going and keep doing well, but
I mean, there's something don't forget. Like, we can't bash them too much because I mean, it's one of those things where they're still top of their division. They're still, they're tied for the top of the AFC, aren't they? Or they're up there.
All 4 divisional leaders in the AFC are on 6-2.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's like they're up there for sure. So it's not like. But basically, they look bad for the Chiefs, but what does that, it's not like they're bad for the NFL. I guess we need to remember that. Is the thing.
I think it's because the high standards they've set over the last couple of years, we expect to still see that from them. And they're 6-2. But like you say, last week, that game last week, the Chiefs don't lose that last year or the year before. Or maybe they probably did now. I've said that. They probably lost a game like that, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the result, it's the performance and the scoreline rather than if they lost to the Broncos in a tight game, fair enough, but that was something else when it scored last week.
I know, definitely. I was shocked to what I was seeing, to be honest with you, but to be fair, the Broncos, you could see a result was coming against the Chiefs. I know I've been on it and I always try and have a dig at studs and wind studs up on this, but you could tell something was going to happen, and it's how they respond to it now. Because to me, this year they've not played any great teams yet. This is going to be their first big test. I mean, I'm looking at it here. You've got Jags, the Bears. The Jags were at the beginning of the season when they weren't looking too hot. The Bears, we all know. New York Jets without thinking, mate. Minnesota was a tire fire. They beat the Broncos once, and then the Chargers. So they've not really had a big team to play yet. So it's going to be interesting how they cope playing against a actual other big team in the AFC.
Yeah.
That's what's most.
So you go.
So what's in it? The Dolphins. Who's got after the Dolphins?
Eagles.
Oh well, we'll find it. We'll find out what they're made of after the next 2 weeks. Then basically.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like they could eat. Well, it sounds obvious to say this, but they could easily be 6-4. in the next 2 weeks. They could easily be 8-2.
Easily.
You know what I mean? But that's the thing. But this is a big test for the Chiefs. I mean, the thing is, it's the Chargers that are sitting behind them. Do you know what I mean? So it's not as if they lose
Well,
the
they're
2
definitely
games.
going to the playoffs. It just means it's
That's
just
what I mean.
as-
That's what I mean. It's like some of the other divisions, if you lost those 2 games, you'd be sort of somebody breathing down your neck. The Chargers probably aren't going to put much pressure on the Chiefs, but it comes down to the whole thing is if you can't win these games during the regular season against these teams, are you going to be able to do it in the playoffs when you really need to step up? And if these players, these receivers we're talking about, can't do it in a regular season game, can they be expected to then step up? I know you're talking 10 weeks down the line or whatever, they can get better and the chemistry can build, but these are the games where these players, the Chiefs, need to step up and show what they can do now, not wait to the end of the season.
And I guess my other point on it as well, as much as I'm saying let's not be doom and gloom about the Chiefs quite yet, is, right now I look at them and yes, they're tied for the top of the AFC. So this is the other side of that argument. I don't, unless they beat the Dolphins this week, I would say I fancy the Dolphins more to be the number 1 seed. So how are the Chiefs going to do without the much spoken of Arrowhead Invitational?
Arrowhead Invitational.
Yep. With their home, their bye week and then their kind of home playoff advantage for 2 rounds kind of thing. So, because it's like when we've seen them on the road to teams like the Bengals, and I know that's a regular season, they typically don't do that well kind of thing. So it's, or in the bigger matchups, like they make hay in their division for sure, because they're playing teams like the Chargers, who, let's face it, their defense is an absolute tire fire. And I guess that's actually a point with this game, here as well, is how is the Chiefs' defense, which has been pretty good. That's really been the best part of their team this year. Yeah. How is that the Dolphins' offense, and vice versa? The Dolphins' defense, which has been, it's not been the best in the league or anything like that, but they've been pretty good. Like, they've been good enough. Yeah. And the Chiefs' defense hasn't been well. It's a hard team to start clicking against, if that makes sense. When you couldn't do it against the Broncos, and the Broncos were, I would have them ranked 33rd out of the 32 teams for defence going into the week. That's how bad they've been. But
yeah. Looking at the schedule, so obviously the Chiefs have got these 2 big games, Dolphins and Eagles. They then go, the rest of the season isn't too bad. They've got the Bills and they've got the Bengals, but apart from that, they've got the Raiders, the Packers, the Patriots, the Raiders again, and the Chargers. So if they can get through these 2 games, they've got 2 more tough games for the rest of the season. So if you get through it, you see it. The Dolphins, after today, they've got 5 very games you expect them to win. So after this weekend, they've got the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans, and the Jets again. But their issue could potentially be they finish Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. That's their last 3 games.
That's a tough end.
Yeah, so going to the end, the Bengals finish Chiefs finish Raiders, Bengals, Chargers. So if it comes down to that point of the season, you maybe fancy the Chiefs a bit more, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But is it between these 2 teams for the AFC number 1 slot then? Is that consensus, do we think?
I can't rule out the Bengals. Even though we're last in our division, and if only we could play the NFC West every single week, because all of our wins have been against teams in that division. But now being realistic, it's like, well, the Ravens finally look like they're clicking as well, as much as their defense has been awesome, but they're another team that Lamar some weeks looks fantastic, but the wide receivers aren't quite there. But that, the last couple of weeks, it's like, I think the Ravens are finally, especially last week, the Ravens are finally waking up. So I don't know if we're going to catch them for the top of the division. So the Ravens I always worry about. So they're always in the forefront of my mind. The Bills, Scott, you can probably speak a bit more about them than me, but I guess they're the other ones that's in the running. Like, they'd need to chase the Dolphins down, but
we'll cover the Bills in a wee bit. Remember, we've got them to talk about later on. But yeah, it's looking at, again, if this kind of covers up both games, if the Chiefs win this week and the Bills win, suddenly the Bills and the Dolphins are level. And the Bills have got the best points differential in the whole AFC. Only there's them and then the Ravens. So we have, well, I don't know who, I'm not going to tar you guys with the same brush. I have personally said, and a lot of people have said, that they think the window for the Bills was gone but they're just kind of sitting there bubbling underneath at the bottom at the moment. So we'll cover them a wee bit more.
We keep-
in a wee while,
yeah.
but
We keep seeing their heads, and then the next week they win, and then they lose to the Patriots, and then
yeah,
dead again. So,
I know. It's a crew. It's like whoever we predict, go the opposite way. That's basically what to do.
what you're saying there, Dan, just to kind of tie a bow in that part on the who's going to win the AFC. So it's going to be the Jaguars then, because none of us have them, and they're winning their division.
The Jags or the Jets are going to. Aaron Rodgers is going to make a miraculous cover and come back, and the Jets are going to somehow win the AFC. Right, guys, let's get cover this one off then. Predictions, Stu, you go first.
I'm going to say purely based on the fact that their offense has not been clicking for me. I think the Chiefs they're not going to win. I think it's going to be the Dolphins, and it's purely because their offense has been going hard and their defense has been good enough. And Eli Apple has great experience locking the Chiefs up as well. So now that the Dolphins have him, that's their key to success.
Well, I didn't realise he went there. He's a disaster.
A glorious disaster. I love the guy.
Go for it, Scud. I love him as well. I loved him when he played for the Giants against us. He was brilliant for us. Sorry, Scud. I'm going away on a tangent there.
No, I'm going with the Dolphins. I just think they're the more complete team at the moment in time. They're playing as a unit at both sides of the ball. So I'll go the Dolphins. 10.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a full house. The Dolphins at the moment, their whole offense is just.
We've done it again.
They're electric. They just. I mean, when you look at we said that the Chiefs' offense is just so stop-start. It's Kelsey. They get a bit of running going, race, so maybe catch a touchdown. It's just so stop-start. That Dolphins defense just doesn't. Offense just doesn't stop. It's like Ange Postecoglou is an offensive coordinator. They just ever stop. Yeah, I'm going to go Dolphins as well. And I think I'm not going to say comfortable, but I think they'll win this by 10. I'm going to say that's my prediction for it. Right, guys, let's move on. Did you say that? Sorry, did you say by 10 as well?
You said by 10. You did.
Sorry, I never heard you. Sorry, mate. I probably interrupted you. My apologies. Okay, by 11.
I'll take the under 9.
Because it's going to be 9-0. It's going to be just field goals. That's it.
Oh, and I would love that. That would be
I know you've been able to say that.
All the way to Germany just to watch a field goal show, like 6-3 or something like that.
Right, let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Now, for those that are regular listeners, you're going to find this section a wee bit weird, all right? Because we've got the Bills at the Bengals, and Stu is not covering this game. We decided to mix it up a bit because I always talk about the Cowboys. Stu always talks about the Bengals. We usually get Scud to talk about the Patriots. Let's mix it up. Let's get everybody else's opinion. Let's get everybody else's. So, the Bills at the Bengals. Scud, take it away.
I'm looking forward to this game. Last week, I thought the Bengals were looking more like themselves from last year. Obviously, Joe Burrow looking a bit more healthier. Chasing a good game. Mixon out of nowhere started running the ball again. I don't know where that came from. But no, they're looking more like they're going like their old self. And then the Bills, again, are much the same as the Bills are with the Chiefs. They've still got a decent record, 5-3, but they just don't. I said earlier, if we've ran the ball up and down in the defence, there's something that's just no clicking with them. And as you said, are they going out? Are they Mr. Window? Allen's good, but he's starting to get. I just feel that this year there's more errors in his game than it was last year. There's more of these interceptions. There's more just not maybe reading the play as well. So it's an interesting game, and both teams can be doing with the win. As you say, Stu, the Bengals are trying to chase down the Ravens, so they need every win they can get. So, and then the Buffalo Bills are also chasing down the Dolphins. It's quite an interesting game, but I don't know. I'm just happy to see a healthy Joe Burrow, because it wasn't good seeing him struggling along. And he's got all these wide receivers there, and they say Mixon, I think it's questionable, but if Mixon's fit, then the Bills have been ran on this season, so having him fit and having a good game last week is going to be interesting to go with as well, because he really did have a good game last week.
Yeah, looking at, and this is something we seem to do this a lot on the podcast. We seem to put teams down and slate them off, and we look at the stats and go, actually, they're not as bad as we have made them out to be. So let's look at the Bills. The Bills have put up the second most amount of points in the AFC this year, behind the Dolphins. They've got the best points differential. Are they just suffering from the fact that they're in the same division of the Dolphins this year, Stu?
I actually, I think so. I mean, I will say, I think Scud is also, he identified there with Josh Allen. I think he's maybe correct in the sense that it almost seems to me like Allen's forcing things. Yeah. Sometimes we shouldn't be. He's almost, I'm not going to say he's overthinking. But I don't know if it maybe is the pressure's getting to him a little bit. I'm not saying the pressure's getting to him because clearly they're putting up a ton of points and they're playing well. What I mean is the pressure's getting to him in terms of he is looking at going like, this is our window. We need to push. We're chasing the Dolphins now. So yeah, I definitely think that is something that if they were in another division, they'd probably be, if they were in the Jaguars division, if any of our teams were in the Jaguars division, they'd probably be right up there. Kind of thing.
Mine's wouldn't be.
You might still be sitting 4-4 or something like that.
You'd be still obviously that bottom.
Well, that's a starter.
Looking at the stats, I've just looked at the receiving stats this year. Stephon Diggs was fourth in the league, 748 yards. So ahead, you've got Tyreek, AJ Brown, and Puka Nacua, who nobody would have predicted at the start of the year. Stephon Diggs is sitting with 748 yards, so the offense is obviously doing something well. Diggs is well documented. We don't know where Diggs' his head is at with this team. Is he want to be there? Does he not want to be there? Does he like Josh Allen? Does he not? What's happening with Diggs, Scud?
I've said it before. I think he's just a diva. He's done the same in Minnesota, stamped his feet, and then got his trade. And I think he's doing the same here. He's just looking this in. He's not looked this into, as you said. He's fourth or fifth overall in receiving yards. But I just think he needs to be the centre of attention, which I feel is not great for being a wide receiver. You've got big teams like, on the opposite end of the ball, you've got Chase, but you've also got Higgins, you've got Boyd. They've got a good core. Whereas that's where I think on the Bill side, you've got Diggs, Gabe Davis. He's never really broke out, so to speak. But they've only got, they've not got as much. But I think that's more the fact is Diggs' ego kind of handling other big receivers in the team with him.
Yeah. Gabe Davis is only 434 yards this year. So not the most. He's got 5 touchdowns. So I think Diggs is... I had it a second it went.
Diggs has got 6. Diggs has got 6.
Yeah. So Diggs has got over 300 yards and more than him, but only 1 more touchdown. Yeah, I think Diggs is like that. I am the number one receiver, and you will make sure I am the number one receiver. Whereas people like you referenced Chase there. Yeah, everybody knows he's the number one wide receiver in Cincinnati, but he doesn't shout about it, and he doesn't have the ego to say that, and that seems to be. Buffalo, yeah. I think, are like as a team unit are good, but he just seems to be kind of be an outlier. Where he's like, no, I'm not saying he's not a team player, but when you look at teams as units, there's no ego, there's no I'm number one, I'm the best, even though they are. But with the Bills, there seems to be that disconnect between the team and Stephon Diggs sometimes, which is it down to being so competitive that he is such a winner, or is it a wee bit of grow up? Yeah. So I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I would definitely kind of agree with that. I think that Stephon Diggs, to me, does come across as an absolute prima donna kind of thing. The guy wants to be the top dog. And, I mean, the thing is, like you say, you can be the top dog, but you don't need to be talking down to other people or making people feel like crap. Whereas, you mentioned there about the Bengals, but for instance, a couple of weeks ago, it's like when Yoshi Vass, Yoshi, when he got his first touchdown, like Burrow and Chase made sure that he got that ball. Whatever they want, grab that ball, want that ball. That's that's your
doing that, yeah,
kind of thing. And then after it, like in the last couple of weeks, it's like you're seeing them in the dressing room, and it's like all the wide receiver guys, they'll hang out with each other, and they're all. I mean, obviously I'm a Bengals fan, so I follow the social media, but it's like you're seeing like Chase and like that new rookie guy Yoshivas. Like, I mean, we took him where like 5th round or 6th round or something like that this year, but we've worked him into plays as the seasons went on, and that's something that the Bengals are kind of good at. It's like, as much as we have Chase, who's always going to get fed, Higgins, now that he looks a bit better now after the bye, just with his rib injury and stuff. Like, didn't have a huge game on Sunday there, but I think he's still got like 48 yards or something. So he's definitely coming back. But you've got him, and then Boyd's there as the veteran. But then even like Yoshi and I forgot his name, punt returner guy, who also plays wide receiver. We put him out on snaps as well. It's like all of them are involved, and they're all just absolutely delighted for each other whenever they make a catch. You don't see people pissing and moaning on the sideline if they're not getting targeted, because it's just like, yes, that play has worked out exactly the way it should. We got the first down there because Joe Burrow's thrown it to the WR6 or whatever in the team kind of thing, and they're all just happy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't seem to be the type of play. So obviously, you look at we're going to just talk about the Bengals because they are obviously on the side of the ball here. Like Chase, maybe I understand his role is not to always be the one to catch the ball; it's to take that coverage away. He knows that if he does his job, he'll get double covered, and that'll leave a space open for somebody else. And that's what being a team player is. Whereas Stefan Diggs is like, I know I was in double coverage, but why did you still throw me the ball?
Throw me the ball. I'll go up and get it, which he might. But he does go up and get it. Let's be honest. It's good.
Go back to what you mentioned about the Bengals receivers. Boyd, I never see all the gimmicks I picked up in red zone, but he seemed to get a few decent catches last week, kind of starting to come back in it a wee bit more.
I mean, Boyd's never really not in it, because I mean he plays that slot role, and it's kind of like, he's like Edelman, Scud. You'll obviously remember him, and Jules was like one of my favourite non-Bengals players, like just for the same reason. He was just one of those guys that like 99% of the time you could put the ball into this really hard area and he's going to do what he can to get the ball, and he's also going to try and get an extra yard or two like through contact. But yeah, I think Tyler Boyd definitely looks like he's starting to kind of heat up again. Not that he was really down, but it's him and Burrow seem to be back on the timing's better for that, like the pass coming into the slot is really what it is. So it probably has more to do with Burrow's leg than it is to do with what Boyd was doing, kind of thing.
Okay.
Then I was just going to say, interesting point on Boyd though is obviously the big kind of the other big narrative every single time we play the Bills is what happened with DeMar Hamlin last year, and Tyler Boyd and him have been very close friends because they both came up through Hamlin a few years after Boyd, but they came up through the same system. And Hamlin was like getting in touch with Boyd for advice and everything when he was coming into the league, so they became really good friends through that. Then obviously what happened last year is I know it's Tyler Boyd was given an interview actually just this morning that I was kind of listening to, and he was clearly quite emotional thinking about it again, because this is one of his best games in the league, and we're back here again playing, and it obviously comes back into your head kind of thing. You kind of lost your body, and as a big storyline for these games every time they come around.
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely forgot all about that actually. So yeah, let's have a quick look at these guys' schedules before we get to predictions, guys. So going forward, the Bills, Broncos, Jets, then they've got Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. So that's going to be, if they can get through these next three games and then hit a brick wall, then they get the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins to finish. So the Bills really need to start. I keep saying really need to start stepping up because they're doing all right. They're not doing bad, but they need to start playing at that elite level to win these type of games over the next few weeks. For the Bengals, you've got just refresh yourself there. After this week, you've got the Texans, then Ravens, Steelers, Jags, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, then the Chiefs finish at the Browns. So that's not the hardest run into the end of the season for the Bengals. I mean, that this week and probably the Ravens games are going to be your two hardest. So there is a good chance there of pushing forward. Right, Stu, I think we've ended up with you talking more about the Bengals than we were planning on anyway. But anyway,
try and stop them. It's hard.
I know. Yeah, I'm going to keep my mouth shut in a minute, so I can't say anything.
I know. I'm fully prepared for when we hit the next game. Dan, you're just going to be jumping in on the time, and as you should.
Hey, let's get predictions. Scud, where's this one going?
I'm going with the Bengals.
Stu, is there any point in asking?
No point. I'm going Bengals.
Bengals again for me. Yeah, I think the Bengals are just starting to hit the stride. I know we're going to do this. Sorry, well, I know there'll be a consensus in the next game, so it's all right.
Yeah.
I think the Bengals are now starting to, like you say, Burrow's back fit. The players are all working for each other. They're all getting involved. They're all making the catches, mixing if he's good to go. They just seem to be hitting their stride at the right time. So I think the Bengals are on the way up. Bills are floating about. I'm going to go with that one. So I'm going to go Bengals as well. Right, next one. I am going to sit here and try and shut my mouth as much as possible.
Okay, here we go.
So, PFF rate this the second biggest rivalry in the NFL. But what do they guys know, eh? We all know it's the biggest. Cowboys and Eagles, it gets the crew curse. That's a new thing. I'm going to trademark that. The crew curse as game of the week. Is it game of the week, Stu? Take it away.
I mean, I would have said the last game was game of the week, but also I would have said that the first game.
I know.
Miami, they're all games of the week.
I'm only giving it game of the week because it's the Cowboys. You know that. But yeah, this weekend there is probably 4 games of the week, but we could only cover 3 of them.
This, it's like when you look at the scheduling for the whole weekend, it's just banger after banger after banger. So, I don't know. Every window has a good game. Because I think even by what's the Monday night game? Because I remember even looking at that.
Chargers Jets.
Well, I mean, that's exciting just for other reasons. You've got a really good offense with a crap defense against a kind of misfiring offense and an elite defense. So it's probably still going to be a good watch.
If we started the weekend after Thursday night football, it's a good weekend of football.
Aye, that's true. Actually, you're right. Tonight's I don't know. There's stuff tonight that, like, I'm looking forward to seeing if Levis is actually real.
Yeah, I hope so.
I guess a good defense, and it might be nice to watch the Steelers lose, but we'll get to that later on. That's not what we're meant.
We'll get to that.
So,
go.
Here we go. Cowboys, Eagles. So we're heading into this one. The Cowboys are sitting 5-2. The Eagles, obviously, as we mentioned earlier on, are 7-1. They're both coming off, they're both coming off wins. You guys beat the Rams. That's who it was, 43-20 last time out. The Eagles struggled yet again, but won against the Washington Commanders, who seem to have their number a little bit. But I'm going to put it more down to that. But the fact that they went in there, they still put up 38 points, and AJ Brown just absolutely destroyed and did his thing. But I think the important, or maybe not the important thing to remember, but one of the things I clocked when I was reading up on this is, and I never even realised this, over the past 5 games between these two teams, the Cowboys they've had 4 wins and the Eagles have only had 1 of it as well. Last time out, you beat them 40-34 as well. That was last season, but I mean, I guess we need to remember that was when Minshew was leading the Eagles.
Oh, no, doesn't matter. We beat the Eagles.
But still, if you're looking at that though, 4 wins out of your last 5, over the last few years, it's that's pretty impressive considering how good the Eagles have been. And they went to the Super Bowl last year.
So what you're saying is the Eagles are due a win?
Yeah, pretty much, good. But no, for me, looking at this one, it's the main narrative, going into it though, is you've basically got 2 teams that have wide receivers. AJ Brown, who's obviously over the last 6 games, the guy's just been absolutely on fire. I think he's had more than 125 yards in every single one of the 6 games.
NFL record. NFL record. Yeah.
And then you've got Dallas, who have CD Lamb, who I drafted in the Gridiron League and also traded for him in our Dynasty League, thinking that he was going to be absolutely amazing this year. And he finally showed up last week against Brian in the Gridiron League. So, Brian, there you go. Have some of them apples. But yeah, I think for me, it's it should be quite exciting to see how those wide receivers do, because they're obviously coming up against good defenses as well. But that's my kind of main thing for this game. Dan, what are you thinking, or how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, first talk about CD Lamb. I mean, he's been good, but last week was that game. You're like, when is he going to have that game? And it was last week. I mean, granted, it was against the Rams, but the Rams D is still decent enough. But it was. What I think as well is, and you probably talk about as well, is Dak. He looked like a completely different player last week. That was a Dak Prescott that you looked at the start of last season. You thought you're on track for MVP. That was the Dak Prescott that turned up last week. But the problem is, it's the inconsistency. mean, my dad has said we will never win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. He's never going to move from it, no matter how well he plays. And this season, I was starting to think you could be right here, and then he pulls that out last week. But part of that is down to his receivers as well. They've got to give him that. They'll drop the ball for a start because we've had a few drops this season. Brandon Cooks showed up a bit last week as well. Tony Pollard does what Tony Pollard does. It was a couple of decent breakaways last week. I think it's consistency. For me, it's all down to consistency with our offense. That's the biggest issue. The weapons are there. The play calling looks to be there. Last week it was there, it wasn't there the week before. Who knows? It's consistency for me. Scott, what's your thoughts on the Cowboys' offense?
I think they're a good unit, and Dak has cleaned it up a bit. As you said, it looks more like what you're hoping you're going to get for Dak. You've got all the weapons. Even the boy Ferguson showed up at tight end as well. I loved his touchdown last week. It was a cracker.
I liked it.
It was good.
But Dak's just, as long as Dak keeps clean, then the Cowboys are going to be dangerous. But it's just making sure Dak remains keeping the ball clean, because we've all seen it when he can go 2 or 3 games looking amazing and then he just drops a 6 interception game. The one towards the tail end of last year was just, I couldn't believe what I was watching when I was watching it. But if you can keep the ball clean, you've got all your weapons there. CD Lamb, Cooks, Gallup, the boy Ferguson, Pollard's doing the ball well, running the ball. I only fear that you're not going to have much of a run game against the Eagles. I can see that being hard sledging for them. Sorry,
Stu's got that in his next point, I think.
I was just going to say, one of my things I'd noted down when I was kind of looking at the defences, that is, that's something that more, for the run game, it's like, I think it's going to be pretty tough sledding. So I think it is going to be more on Dak to be throwing the ball in this game. That's going to be how the Cowboys are going to do it. And also the other side of the ball, they're going to need to have their defence step up and be the defence that they've been this year, which is one of the better ones in the NFL. But on that rushing thing, that's the one thing when I was looking at the Dallas defence, I think you're only ranked 18th.
Oh, terrible.
18th against the rush. You're a top 4 defence, but you're 18th against the rush. So to me, I look at the Philly team and I go, okay, I know Hurts is maybe not quite, he's still getting the knee injury, so he's not quite as mobile, and we saw that last week. But they do have DeAndre Swift, who, yes, he's slowed down. He's not getting as many yards as he was earlier on. But guys like Gainwell, they can, if they don't fumble the ball, they can definitely hurt you, kind of thing as well. Because Gainwell had quite a costly fumble last week. I seem to remember, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure he dropped it in the red zone.
Have it fumbled at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, it was right on the 1 yard line, and he was not pleased with himself at the side. I don't know if you saw that, and I know Sirianni, I think, came out after the game, and he was very supportive. So I would actually I would look to see Gainwell kind of do pretty good this week. But that's, basically my kind of thing with the defences is I think the Eagles might try and go after that, because that's totally, I think, to exploit is your rush defence maybe isn't the best. But for you guys, because the Eagles are so good against the run, as Scott alluded to there, I think they're going to need to throw it. So you're going to be looking for Dak to be consistent, because he's going to have to be.
Yeah. Just go back to the defence. We obviously picked up Mazzy Smith in the first round to plug that gap. So far hasn't really worked. We watch us. It sounds daft, but the gaps are obviously there, but we just don't seem to be able to tackle runners. It's like the running back gets through, and he's past the linebacker, suddenly he's past the safety. Like, how have you missed 8 tackles? It's like they just whiff at tackles. So it's not as if they're getting through and there's wide open spaces. They're actually beating players because they can't tackle them. Imagine I shooting my telly thinking, how did you miss that tackle?
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest issues. Obviously, the gaps on the line are they go outside, but it's missing tackles that are costing us so badly in the run game.
Which you don't want to be doing against the Eagles.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the thing is, it's also when your defense is that susceptible to the run game, and then just opens up the play action all the time, and they run. Suddenly, you said, and there's AJ Brown 90 yards down the field catching the ball because you've committed to the run. And that's obviously what works in the NFL, is when you've got that good balance so that you're not as predictable. So that's the flip side of it as well. If you're good at stopping one, like you said, the Eagles stop our run, we know we have to throw the ball, whereas if you can't stop a run, the offenses have got both options to do whatever they want. Scott, flipping it back to the Cowboys for a second, taking away, we'll ignore the run defense because we spoke about that. What impresses you about the Cowboys defense?
I would say everything. The pressure, even with Diggs going out, they've not noticed a drop off at cornerback either. They get pressure on the ball. Sorry. And I just think they've been really good against the fuck, my head's up my arse. No, they've been playing really well as a unit, and they're stopping the ball, they're doing really well against the pass. So it'll be interesting to see, because obviously that's where maybe the Eagles haven't been as strong. So if they can find a result and try and stiffen up their rush, it'll hopefully be good. It'll hopefully play into their hands, because you want to try and get Jalen Hurts throwing the ball as much as you can. Yeah. And if you can maybe not have to sell out to stop the run all the time, then it will hopefully play Bingme. But no, like Micah Parsons is just a beast. Yeah. And they've got so other good, like Van Der Esch, and that seems to have turned up this season as well. So it's been a really
is the one that
Stu, it's exactly. I'm waiting for Scott to finish to mention that exact player. 3 pick sixes already this season for the guy who was a slot cornerback until Diggs got injured. Suddenly he's now out there wide, and he's got 3 pick sixes. Talk about him. Have you also got him in your notes? What have you got in your notes about Deron Bland?
Well, I've just said there that just exactly on that. He's on 3 pick sixes. So if he gets one more pick six, so remember this is only halfway through the season. If he gets one more pick six, he ties the NFL record for like an pick sixes in one season. Wow. Still playing the game to go.
Who's got the record now? Have you got a note of that? Who's got it?
I never wrote that down. I did it for the kick because I've got the kicker record sitting here as well.
Shot corner.
Just so you know, because to give you that one, I mean, I was going to say that I'll save that for statistic of the week actually, as well. But just to give a slight spoiler, it involves Aubrey, but the real statistic is who has the actual current record as well. But we'll get that later on. But no, I don't have who has the record for the most pick sixes. I should have wrote that down.
What else have you got noted there, Stu? Any more talking points for this game for us?
No, that's all I kind of really had. Yeah, the only other thing I'd noted was it was Gainwell fumble on my next page. Gainwell fumble on the 1 yard line, and Sirianni had kind of backed him up on that. So look for him to get a few red zone touches. I think Sirianni's he's quite prone to, if he backs players, he gives them opportunities to kind of get it back in there, because he was upset for him as well, and they knew it was a fumble, but it was one of those ones where he was so gutted that he. Sirianni's like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. Like we're all in this together as a team. There's no pointing the finger of blame.
Yeah, just to come back to your pick.
The record, by the way. Sorry.
On you go, Stu. Scott, sorry, on you go.
I have no idea who they are. Eric Allen.
I was going to do the same. Then you go.
I know it's Eric Allen for the Eagles, Jim Kennedy for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Ken Houston for the Houston Texans.
Good name. Imagine being Kenny. You need to say
Eric Allen was 1993, Jim Kearney was 1972, and Ken Houston was 1971. So it's a record that stood for a while.
A long time, yeah.
On that list, there's about 1 million players with 3 in a season. Yeah. People like Marcus Peters, Charles Tillman, Charles Woodson, Antrell Roll, people like that, all on 3. Deion Sanders on 3. So yeah, we've been to some
company. He's a good company already, especially when he was a guy that moved over to that position. Yeah, kind of thing as well. But interesting if you can match that record against the Eagles as well, though, kind of thing. Just
player that's got the record.
Or he was the first one that Scott named there.
Hey, what? Why did he just get 2 against the Eagles? Oh,
Kev will be raging.
Anyway, guys, let's get predictions. Stu, you kicked us off, so give us your prediction for this one.
You know what? I'm looking at it and I'm going to play it safe and I'm going to say Eagles. And I think it's still going to be a close game, though. I think it's, 5 or 3 points in it.
Okay.
I'm going to go the same purely for what you said there, mate, about if the Cowboys can't stop the run, then I think they might find it too hard to stop them.
I think this is generally a huge game, obviously, because it's Cowboys against the Eagles. If we lose this, we go 3 games behind the Eagles. I don't see us picking that back up. So I think we need to win this game.
Need to win.
If we want to. I mean, I think we'll still get the playoffs. I think we'll finish second, we'll still get the playoffs, the NFC. But if we really have any thoughts on winning this division, we need to win this game. 3 games behind the Eagles at this stage of the season is far too far. I'm also going to tip the Cowboys, obviously.
Good.
Right,
First non-Queens.
Yeah, I did say it. I said it was. I knew at least one of you wasn't going to pick the Cowboys.
Yeah.
My heart of hearts, I knew both of you weren't going to pick it, but I was hoping someone was going to side with me. But I'm used to it. Anyway, guys, right.
My wee brother would disown me if I didn't pick them.
Right, rest in one. So usual script. Clockwise, one word answers. Who's going to win it? Now, this is the game that I think could have been in the chat tonight. This is probably the 4th game of the week, I think. Seahawks at the Ravens, Stu. Who's winning it?
Ravens. I think.
Good.
Yeah.
Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed the Seahawks. Seahawks are doing well. Ravens, I think, very much like the Bengals, are starting to show what they can do. Unfortunately for the Bengals. I'm going Ravens as well. Next one, the cousinless Vikings against the Tyler Hinkney Falcons. I can't speak.
I still think the Vikings are going to be too strong in this one, like even with the rookie as well. Like the Falcons have a good defense, but I don't know. They don't show enough. And Heineke was with the Bengals, remember, in preseason, and he didn't look good. So I don't know. I don't trust him.
It's good.
I'll go with the Falcons just to change it up.
I think the Falcons, and they still don't know why, but what's going on with Bijan this year is all I'm going to say about the Falcons. They're just, it barely ran 2 weeks ago. He obviously scored his first touchdown last week. Arthur Smith said he wasn't feeling well, but who knows what's going on there. But I'm going to be used to much, even with the rookie. Vikings are too strong for this one. Rams, Packers.
Ramming it down, I think the Rams.
Second year motion, Rams.
Yeah, saying Jordan Love's just not. He's showing flashes what he can do. Rams are consistent. Rams, you know what you're getting with the Rams one way or another. So yeah, Rams. Colts against the Panthers.
Colts. I think the Colts are starting to look kind of actually decent on offense, kind of thing. And Minshew and Downs they've been a good pair.
It's good.
Yeah. Again, Colts with two-headed running back room with Taylor coming back and looking more and more like himself every game. I think they've got too much for them.
Yeah, Bryce Young obviously showed up a bit last week to get that win over the Texans, but I still don't think it's enough to overcome this Colts team. So yeah, we go Colts as well. I think this one could be an interesting matchup. I don't think it was one of the ones where there was a discussion for us to talk about this tonight, but Bucks against the Texans.
You know what? I'm going to say Texans.
It's good.
I think
Sorry.
Go with the Bucks.
It's a tough one. Bucks have got a very good D, but I'm a big CJ Stroud fan, so I'm going to go Texans. And last one, Chargers, Jets.
Jets. It's the defense beats the offense. I know the Chargers' offense is good, but that was tough as well. But yeah, I think the Jets.
Chargers.
I can't go against my man Justin Herbert. Chargers for me.
Yeah,
that was a tough.
I was like, with that one.
That was a tough resting one this week. I thought a lot of the games were borderline, could went either way. I think so. I enjoyed picking those games for you.
Makes for a good weekend of football, but a bad weekend of betting.
That. Fantasy, who knows what's going to happen?
Aye.
Talking of fantasy, studs and sleepers. So this week we're going to go with our studs and sleepers. So I'm up first with the quarterbacks. I know who my sleeper's going to be. Stud. I don't want to go too obvious. That's the thing. It's like, where do I go with this one? It's obvious, but it's not obvious. I think I'm going to go Lamar Jackson for the stud this week. I think the Ravens are starting to turn that corner, show what they can do. Seattle aren't it's not going to be a walkover, so that's what I'm saying. It's not going to be an obvious pick for him to be. I think the Seahawks are going to give them a matchup, and I just think I'm going to go Lamar Jackson. Sleeper, yeah, you mentioned him a lot this week, and I'm going to go with Hall at the Vikings. I think he's just got too many weapons about him to not put up a good amount of fantasy points unless he decide to run the ball a lot because he's a rookie. Which with the weapons they've got around about him, I think it'd still be daft not to let him throw the ball.
He's pretty mobile. Well, like from what I know of him, like he's a pretty mobile quarterback. So what I imagine them doing is there's going to be a lot of kind of RPO going on.
Yeah.
So him being the runner sometimes rather than, and that's always hard for defenses is when you get those kind of quarterbacks that you don't know whether he's throwing or if he's taking off the throw or if he's taking off kind of thing. So
I suppose if you've got him that can run and Mattison and Cam Akers there, it gives the Vikings a lot of options out of the backfield as such. So yeah, I'm going to go with him. I think he's going to have a good weekend. Who was next? Sorry guys, I've completely lost. Scud, running backs.
I touched on it earlier. I think Jonathan Taylor will have a game. I just think the defense, he's just looking more and more like himself, and he's due a big game. So I'll go with Jonathan Taylor. For my stud and sleeper. I don't know if you can call him a sleeper, but Jacobs hasn't really had a good season so far. But I think maybe the bounce of him. McDaniel's getting punted, a different quarterback in there, they maybe have to rely on the run. So I've got a funny feeling he might have a decent game. It's not much of a sleeper, but he was the most rusher, the biggest rusher last year. But I do think he's not the great season and he's due a wee rub of the green and getting a wee bounce.
He is against the Giants as well, so it's a good shoot.
Yeah.
Stu, who's your receivers for this week?
Okay, stud of the week. Again, we kind of briefly mentioned in the Preston one there, Josh Downs for the Colts. He's my stud of the week. Like I always hate trying to choose Tyreek Hill or somebody. Going for like an absolute maniac because it's like I'd rather go. Okay, here's a stud who I think's going to do really really well, but it's clearly not a sleeper either. So yeah, Josh Downs. I could see him. Him and Minshew have had like great chemistry, and I still think he's going to be targeted like crazy this week. So.
You're not going to pick somebody like Tyreek because it doesn't matter. Everybody's going to have them in their starting lineup anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. You're not going to, do you know what I mean? So you're maybe trying to give somebody a bit of who you think might do well. That's not the obvious one. So Josh Downs is a great shout. Who's your sleeper?
Sleeper again. He's a guy that's actually done pretty well this year so far. But last week, interestingly enough, even though the Ravens started clicking, he had a really quiet week for him. Zay Flowers. I'm picking him as my sleeper of the week. I think he'll probably bounce back and. Again, maybe not the purest sweeper. I'm not saying I pick up somebody like Joshua Palmer
off the waivers,
floating around off. But Zay Flowers is a guy that he didn't have the week last week, so I think I could see him doing well this week.
Excellent. Okay, so it's back to myself for tight end. So this is a weird one because normally you struggle to think, these two players are probably studs. When you do this. I'm actually going to go the opposite way with this one, where I think both of these guys could be seen as a sleeper. I need to pick one of them as my stud. I'm going to go for the stud. I'm going to go for Michael Mayer at the Raiders. I think the new quarterback coming in, new head coach, O'Connell, you tend to see with these quarterbacks that come in, they use the tight end as a safety valve quite a lot. And I think that's what we're going to see with O'Connell in the Raiders this week. He's obviously got Adams there as well, Renfro, but I think he's going to use Mayer a lot, probably more than we've seen so far this season. My other one, we mentioned him already tonight, and I think it's going to be Jake Ferguson. I know you predicted him a couple of times to step up, and he's done okay. But But if Dak's going to have to throw the ball a lot this week, Lamb's going to get covered a lot, Cooks is going to get covered a lot with the no DBs that the Eagles have got, to be fair. There might just be that space across the middle and those zones for Jake Ferguson to pick up. So I'm going to go with him as my sleeper this week.
Nice.
Scud defences.
I say there's a lot of close games, but this week, but to me, I went with the Browns against Arizona. I just think the Browns have got too much up there, and I think Garrett might feast again. Although I've said I don't even know who's a rookie that's quarterback.
Right tune.
Yeah. So I think he might get snapped into it, to be honest with you. So we'll see. But no, I think the Browns will have a good week defense wise. And sleeper, it could be seen as a homer pick, but I can see us holding Washington down. And I'm going to go with the Patriots defense. They've been playing okay, even though we're missing a couple of big pieces. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. And as you said, see with your quarterback, mate, I think Jones might have a game because they've just sent their best two pass rushers away.
So folks, get your money in Sam Hill throwing for over 1,000 yards this weekend.
No, you're getting that mixed up with Jalen Hurts.
It's, as always, finishes off with the kickers.
Okay, from a stud, I'm actually, it's kind of a bit of a cop-out because partly because I wanted to mention that record and then use it as statistic of the week. So my stud of the week is Aubrey, because Aubrey is he's at a point where he needs just one more field goal to he's going to break the record because he's matched it already for most consecutively made field goals to start a career in the NFL. And the statistic of the week is, okay, the guy that is tied with him, he is a guy that actually played for the Browns, and I believe it might be back in round about 2015-16, which has been you mentioned earlier on, Scott. So we're tying it all back around. Here. So around that really bad period in Browns history, but they had a guy called Travis Coons, was a kicker back then, and he made 18 field goals in a row to kind of start his career, and then obviously missed one, and the Browns continued to be crap, and so on and so forth. Sorry, Brian, but yeah, Aubrey has the chance this weekend. All he has to do is make his first field goal, and he'll break the record for most field goals by a rookie. So he's my spot.
Custom.
No
what's going to happen is you're going to miss that field goal, and the Eagles are going to win by 2, and Stu, it's all going to be your fault.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Aubrey. I really like you. So sleeper of the week. This is actually a bit more of a sleeper because his team are absolute dog meat sometimes this year as well. Although they are playing the Rams, and that's Andrews Carlson, so the Green Bay Packers kicker. So I've got him in as my sleeper. I mean, again, he's actually been pretty decent for them, but I could see him doing well this week. As bad as the Packers have been on offense, I do think against the Rams, they should still be able to get into field goal range. So this guy could be someone that's going to put up like 9, 10, maybe over 10 points or whatever in your league kind of thing. So I think the Rams have been giving up more than 10 points to kickers quite often so far this season. So not outside the realms of possibility. So Andrews Carlson, and that's your sleeper of the week for kicker.
Magic. Thanks as always, guys. I think we had some great fantasy shouts in there this week. I really like that Brandon Aubrey pick. I really like the Jake Ferguson pick by me as well. So,
hey Scud, I almost went for like a super depth sleeper pick, Juju Smith-Schuster, just because the same reason as you. Like the Commanders are missing their pass rush. You've lost what's his head? Your main. I know you've got Douglas there, and he's been good, but
Bourne.
Bourne's out. So, but I could see Juju. Again, going back to the Chiefs last year, Juju was like their kind of release valve because he's a big, he's kind of quite a big frame, and like what he was doing well for the Chiefs last year was just standing around about that first down line, like whether it was 10 yards or 6 yards, he would just go up there, get the catch, bring the ball down, doesn't need to go anywhere, just get the first down. I could see him doing that this week for you guys, so he's like my super depth.
There could be a problem with that though. It is still Juju Smith-Schuster. Anyway, guys, thanks for that. We'll watch with bated breath to see if any of those predictions come in, but I've gone by our previous records, ignore everything we've just said. Everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching tonight. Some really good discussion tonight, guys. Some really big games this weekend. TV, I think none of us will be away for the TV all weekend. I think this week, and with the games, really looking forward to it. And obviously finishing up with my game, I'll be happy to watch that. But I'll be watching all the games as much as I can this weekend, guys. And I'm sure you will be doing the same. Everyone at home, thanks again for tuning in. Catch us on all your podcasting sites. Get us on all the socials at Irn-Cru. Give us a follow, give us a like. Drop some comments in. Let us know what you want to hear us discuss. I like a bit of interaction. If there's a game you think we should be covering on the review crew at the start of next week, or even next week's preview crew, let us know what you think, and we'll catch you all soon, guys. Thanks for tonight. As always, it's been a pleasure. Let's do it.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I'm just going to head off and enjoy the glorious fuel consumption of my tiny little car.
Thanks as always.
Cheers, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, guys. Folks, I've been Dan. This has been your preview crew for week 9, and we'll catch you guys soon.